Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something. Well, something huge and pretty terrifying. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
That's right. And we're not just skimming the surface. We're focusing on the first half, the first 14 chapters, to really understand the mechanics of how it all goes so wrong.
Exactly. Our mission, if you will, is to trace that chain reaction. How does this brilliant guy, Victor Frankenstein, go from intellectual ambition to total moral failure?
And how does that failure, that abandonment, turn something potentially good into,
Yeah.
well, into a monster seeking revenge? We want to dissect the characters, the story's origins, and track the tragedies as they pile up.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the origin story of the book itself, which is almost as famous as the novel. It wasn't some dry academic exercise, was it?
Not at all. It famously came out of this gloomy summer holiday in 1816.
Yeah.
Mary Shelley, who had these incredibly famous radical parents, William Godwin and Mary Wollstonecraft. She was near Geneva with Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, and others. It was raining constantly, the year without a summer, actually.
Yeah, volcanic winter, apparently.
Exactly. So they were stuck inside reading German ghost stories. And Byron challenges everyone, let's all write a ghost story.
And Mary struggled at first, right? She felt this kind of block.
Yeah, she talks about that blank incapability. But then she had what she called a waking dream or nightmare.
The famous vision.
She saw the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the thing he had put together. She saw the horror of the creation stirring and the creator running away in terror.
And that feeling, that gut reaction of horror was the spark. She thought, what terrified me will terrify others.
And that's crucial, isn't it? The impulse wasn't purely scientific speculation. It was rooted in visceral existential fear. Percy Shelley, in his preface to the 1818 edition, even frames it more philosophically.
How so?
He positions it less as just a scary monster story and more as an exploration of human passion. What happens when ambition goes too far, beyond our limits?
Okay, so before we even meet Victor properly, Shelley gives us this framing device. Robert Walton's Letters from the Arctic. Why start there? Why is Walton so important?
Oh, Walton is essential. He's writing these letters back to his sister, Margaret Seville, from his ship heading towards the North Pole. He's searching for glory, for discovery, for eternal light.
Sounds familiar.
Exactly. He's a mirror image of Victor in many ways, driven by this almost obsessive ambition. But Walton also voices something Victor maybe doesn't articulate as clearly: profound loneliness.
I have no friend, Margaret. He keeps saying that, doesn't he?
He does. He desperately wants a companion, someone to share his dreams and, well, his failures. And then who does he find out there on the ice?
Victor Frankenstein. Stranded, half dead, pursuing this demon.
Right. August 17th something. Victor is completely broken, physically and mentally. And he immediately sees Walton's ambition, recognizes that same fire, and calls it his madness.
So Victor tells his story to Walton as a warning. Learn from my mistakes before it's too late for you.
Precisely. It sets up Victor's own backstory perfectly. This tale of ambition leading to ruin.
So let's dive into that backstory. Victor's early life in Geneva, it seems almost idyllic, doesn't it?
On the surface, yes. Very privileged. His father, Alphonse Frankenstein, is presented as this respected, benevolent figure. He married later in life to Caroline Beaufort.
Who he basically rescued, right? The daughter of his deceased friend?
Yes, and Caroline herself is portrayed as this icon of compassion, a guardian angel to the afflicted, always helping the poor. She's deeply invested in charity.
And then there's Elizabeth Lavenza. Her introduction is interesting.
Very. Carol then adopts her in Italy from a poor, noble family. But Victor's perception of her is immediate and, frankly, a bit unsettling.
He literally calls her his promised gift.
He does. Mine, he says. Mine to protect, love, and cherish. Not like a sister, but like a possession. She represents beauty, calmness, the living spirit of love to him.
That possessiveness feels like a huge red flag looking back.
Absolutely. It shows his need for control, his difficulty with relationships that aren't entirely on his terms. It definitely foreshadows how he reacts to the creature later.
And then there's his best friend, Henry Clerval.
Clerval. He's Victor's total opposite in terms of interest. Clerval loves romance, adventure, the moral relations of things. He wants to be a hero, a benefactor to mankind.
Wow, Victor. He's drawn to the physical world, the secrets.
The physical secrets of the world, yes. He has this intense thirst for knowledge, but a specific kind of knowledge about the hidden workings of nature.
Which leads us to a really crucial moment in Chapter 2. You could call it the fatal impulse.
That's a good way to put it. Age 13, Victor stumbles upon the works of Cornelius Agrippa, the old alchemist. He's excited, fascinated.
And he shows his father. What happens next is so important.
It really is. Alphonse just glances at it and dismisses it carelessly, calls it sad trash, tells Victor not to waste his time.
No explanation, no guidance, no discussion about why alchemy was superseded by modern science. Just dismissal.
Exactly. And Victor himself reflects on this later. He says if his father had just taken the time, explained patiently, maybe he wouldn't have felt that fatal impulse towards those forbidden ideas.
Instead, because it felt forbidden and dismissed, he dives right in.
Right into the exploded systems, Paracelsus, Albertus Magnus. He's hooked on the idea of finding ultimate power, the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life.
And then that interest gets solidified later by a natural event, doesn't it?
Yes, the lightning strike. He witnesses a powerful storm where lightning completely obliterates an old oak tree. And instead of just being awed or scared, he becomes obsessed with electricity, with galvanism. He sees it as this immense controllable power.
So filled with these ideas, he heads off to university at Ingolstadt, Chapter 3.
And there he meets two key professors who push him further in different ways. First, M. Krimp.
Krimp is the natural philosophy professor. He's described as kind of squat and gruff.
And he basically tells Victor off for wasting his time on the alchemists, calls it all nonsense. But interestingly, that rejection doesn't deter Victor at all.
No, it's the next professor, M. Waldman, the chemistry professor, who really seals Victor's fate.
Right. Waldman is the opposite, mild, thoughtful, and he gives this really inspiring lecture about modern chemistry. He praises its power, how far it's come beyond alchemy.
He talks about scientists acquiring new and almost unlimited powers.
And then comes the line that just hooks Victor completely. Waldman says modern scientists can penetrate into the recesses of nature, command the thunders of heaven, and even, this is the kicker, mock the invisible world with its own shadows.
Wow. So that's it. Victor hears that and he's all in.
Utterly dedicated, he throws himself into chemistry, but specifically anatomy and physiology. He wants to find the source, the cause of generation and life.
Chapter 4 details this obsession, right? 2 years just vanish.
Completely. He neglects everything, family, friends, his own health. He's haunting dissecting rooms, charnel houses, studying decay to understand life. Total isolation.
And the most important event in that chapter, he finds it.
He discovers the secret. The means to bestow animation upon lifeless matter. It's monumental. And he immediately decides to create a being.
A huge being, notably. Why so big?
Practicality, ironically. He says the minuteness of the parts made working on a normal human scale too intricate, too difficult.
Yeah.
So he goes for gigantic, about 8 feet tall.
And he has these grand visions, doesn't he? A new species blessing him as creator.
Oh yeah, the hubris is off the charts. He thinks he deserves gratitude for this.
Then Chapter 5, the moment arrives. On a dreary night of November.
The creation scene. He finally does it. He infuses the spark of being into the lifeless form he's assembled.
And the immediate reaction? Is it triumph? Wonder?
No. Instantaneous horror. The second the creature's eye opens that dull yellow eye, Victor is filled with overwhelming disgust.
He sees the watery eyes, the shriveled complexion, the straight black lips. He calls it a wretch, a demoniacal corpse.
And this is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
He rejects it not because it's inherently evil or dangerous. He rejects it because it's ugly. His aesthetic sensibilities are completely revolted.
His dream shatters into a nightmare based on looks alone.
Yes. All that work, all that ambition collapses into revulsion at the appearance of the thing he made. And what does he do?
He runs. He abandons it immediately, flees the room, spends the night pacing in the courtyard.
Total dereliction of responsibility from the very first second. And then, conveniently, or perhaps inconveniently, Henry Clerval shows up the next morning.
His friend, arriving to study, he finds Victor in a terrible state.
Completely agitated, raving. Victor then collapses into a serious illness, a nervous fever that lasts for months.
And Clerval, being the good friend he is, nurses Victor back to health, keeps the severity of it from his family back in Geneva.
Yeah, Clerval really is the model of care and friendship here, ironically highlighting Victor's failures even more.
So Victor recovers, but he's changed. He now loathes his scientific pursuits, can't even bear the sight of his instruments.
He just wants to forget the whole thing. But of course, you can't just walk away from something like that. The consequences are coming.
And they arrive devastatingly in Chapter 7, a letter from his father.
Terrible news. His youngest brother, William, the beloved little boy of the family, has been murdered. strangled while out playing near Geneva.
Victor rushes home, and as he approaches Geneva, there's a storm.
A dramatic thunderstorm, yes, and in a flash of lightning near the very spot where William was killed, Victor sees him.
The creature.
A gigantic, grotesque figure lurking in the shadows, and Victor's conclusion is immediate, absolute.
I had turned loose into the world a depraved wretch. Had he not murdered my brother, he doesn't even question it.
No doubt in his mind. And compounding the horror, he realizes a miniature portrait of his mother, which Elizabeth had given William, is missing from the body.
Which leads directly to the next tragedy in Chapter 8.
The ultimate injustice. Justine Moritz, the sweet servant girl the family had taken in and loved like one of their own, is accused of the murder.
Why her?
Because the missing miniature portrait is found planted in her pocket. The creature, in a calculated act of malice, framed her.
And despite Elizabeth's passionate defense of Justine's character.
The evidence seems damning. And then, tragically, Justine herself confuses things. Under pressure from her confessor, she confesses to the crime in court, hoping for absolution before death.
Even though she's innocent.
Completely innocent. Victor knows this. He knows the real murderer is his own creation. He feels the crushing weight of guilt. I, not indeed, but in effect, was the true murderer.
But he says nothing. He can't, can he? How could he explain?
He feels trapped. How could he reveal his secret without sounding completely insane? So he stays silent. Justine is convicted and executed.
2 deaths now directly linked to his creation and his abandonment, William and Justine.
The weight is unbearable. Chapter 9 shows Victor consumed by remorse and despair. He retreats to the family home at Bellerive.
He even contemplates suicide, doesn't he? Drowning himself in the lake?
Yes, but he holds back. Partly thinking of Elizabeth and his remaining family, Ernest and his father. He feels he has a duty to protect them from the monster he unleashed.
But mostly it seems out of fear and maybe a desire for revenge himself.
He says he lived in daily fear, lest the monster whom I had created should perpetrate some new wickedness. There's this mix of guilt, fear, and growing hatred for the creature. His main goal now is to find and destroy it.
Which sets up the confrontation in Chapter 10. Victor seeks escape, some kind of solace in nature. He travels to the Valley of Chamonix into the Alps.
Right, seeking the sublime majesty of the mountains to maybe soothe his tormented soul. He ascends to the Mer de Glace, this huge glacier.
And who does he find there, bounding towards him with superhuman speed?
The creature himself, finally, face to face.
And Victor's reaction is not exactly welcoming.
Pure rage. He immediately curses him, calls him devil, vile insect, threatens to trample you to dust. He tries to attack him.
But the creature is much stronger, faster, easily avoids him.
And then, remarkably, the creature doesn't just respond with violence. He starts to speak reasonably. He demands justice.
He makes that famous plea, doesn't he? I was benevolent. My soul glowed with love and humanity. But misery made me a fiend.
Exactly. He argues that he was born good, but suffering and rejection turned him evil. He appeals to Victor as his creator, demanding his rights.
And he makes an offer, a bargain.
He says, "Make me happy and I shall again be virtuous." He promises to disappear, to leave humanity alone forever, if Victor will just listen to his story and fulfill one request.
And Victor, despite his hatred, is compelled. By curiosity, maybe a tiny sliver of guilt, he agrees to listen.
Reluctantly, yes, which shifts the narrative perspective dramatically. Starting Chapter 11, we get the creature side of the story.
From his own point of view, how does he describe his first moments?
Pure confusion, a flood of sensory input he can't process, light, sound, hunger, cold. He describes himself as a poor, helpless, miserable wretch, utterly vulnerable.
He learns basic survival, like finding berries, finding shelter, and he discovers fire.
Yes, left behind by some beggars. And he learns its dual nature, warmth and light, but also pain if you touch it. The same cause, he realizes, should produce such opposite effects. A key lesson.
But his first encounter with humans is not good.
Disastrous. He wanders into a village, seeking food and companionship, and the people scream, attack him, drive him away in terror, simply because of his appearance.
So he learns early on that he's seen as monstrous. He finds refuge where?
In a little shed, a hovel, built against the back wall of a small cottage, and through a crack in the wall he begins to observe the family living inside. This is Chapter 12.
The DeLacy's.
Yes. The blind old father, DeLacy, and his 2 adult children, Felix and Agatha.
Yeah.
He watches them, learns their routines, sees their interactions.
And what does he see?
Kindness, gentleness, they care for each other. But he also sees their sadness, their poverty. He doesn't understand it at first.
But he starts to feel empathy for them.
He does. He realizes he's been stealing their food, adding to their hardship. So in a crucial act of kindness, he stops stealing and starts secretly helping them.
This is the good spirit part.
Exactly. He gathers firewood for them at night, clears their path. They're mystified, talking about a good spirit helping them.
Yeah.
And all the while, he's listening, painstakingly learning their language from their conversations.
It's a slow process, but then something happens in chapter 13 that speeds things up.
Safi arrives, a beautiful young woman described as Arabian. Felix is overjoyed to see her. Clearly, she's his beloved.
And she doesn't speak their language, French.
Right. So Felix starts teaching her, and the creature, listening intently through the wall, gets a crash course in language alongside Safi.
And Felix uses a particular book to teach her history and society.
Yes. Volney's Ruins of Empires. And this is where the creature's education takes a devastating turn.
Oh, so.
Through Volney, he learns about human history, civilizations, governments, social structures. He learns about wealth and poverty, rank and class, virtue and vice.
And crucially, about family relationships.
Father, mother, child, brother, sister, all the bonds he doesn't have. This knowledge floods him with anguish. He starts to understand his own unique, monstrous state.
He sees himself as utterly alone, hideously different.
He asks those heartbreaking questions. What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination? He realizes he has no money, no friends, no property. He's an outcast, a blot upon the earth.
He even compares himself to Adam and Satan.
Right. He thinks Adam was cherished by God even after falling. But Satan at least had fellow devils.
Yeah.
I was alone, he says, more wretched than either.
And then he finds something that confirms his worst fears.
In the pocket of the cloak he took from Victor's laboratory, he finds Victor's journal detailing the creation. He reads about his own construction, his creator's disgust. It confirms his hideous origins and the reason for his abandonment. Absolute agony.
Chapter 14 then fills in the DeLacy family's own tragic backstory. Why were they living in this poor cottage?
Turns out, old DeLacy was once a wealthy, respected man in Paris. But Felix got involved in helping Safi's father, a Turkish merchant who was unjustly imprisoned by the French government.
Felix helped him escape.
Yes, but the plot was discovered. The DeLacy family was blamed, stripped of their wealth, imprisoned, and finally exiled. They lost everything because of Felix's noble, if rash, action.
And Safi, why did she come looking for Felix?
Her father had promised her to Felix, but then tried to force her back to Turkey. Safi, whose Christian mother had taught her to value freedom and education, refused to go. She took some money and jewels and bravely journeyed across Europe to find Felix in his exile.
So the creature has witnessed both the kindness and the deep sorrows of this family he's grown attached to.
Yes, and learned about the complexities, the injustices, and the importance of connection in human society, all things denied to him.
Okay, so by the end of chapter 14, where the creature pauses his story, we see the devastating impact of Victor's initial act.
Absolutely. That single act of creation, followed by immediate abandonment, has directly led to the deaths of William and Justine. And it's transformed the creature from, as he claims, a potentially benevolent being into someone consumed by misery and loneliness.
He's now intelligent, articulate, powerful, and deeply wronged. He's become Victor's enemy, shamed entirely by Victor's failure.
And this brings us right to the edge of the next stage. The creature has told his story, laid bare his suffering, and now he's about to make his demand.
The demand that drives the rest of the conflict. Victor must create a female companion for him, a mate, so he won't be alone anymore.
If Victor agrees, the creature promises they'll disappear into the wilds of South America and never trouble humankind again. It's this terrifying bargain Victor now faces.
A kind of new slavery forced on him by his own creation.
Exactly. And we know Victor's greatest personal wish is just to go home, marry Elizabeth, find peace. But the creature's existence makes that impossible.
Which brings us to that chilling threat the creature makes later, after more conflict. I will be with you on your wedding night.
It's one of the most famous lines. Victor immediately assumes the creature means to kill him on his wedding night.
But given everything we've seen, is that the real threat? Here's something to think about. The creature's revenge so far hasn't been direct violence against Victor. It's been destroying what Victor loves William, Justine's reputation, his peace of mind.
So what if that wedding night threat isn't about Victor's death at all? What if the true, most devastating horror the creature intends is the destruction of Elizabeth, the final annihilation of Victor's last hope for happiness? That's the terrifying question hanging over Victor as he has to decide whether to comply with the creature's demand, a consequence of abandonment he can't escape.